Wow, it got quiet. Good morning. I'm Stuart Lowry. I'm the President and CEO of Sunflower Electric Power Corporation and Mid-Kansas Electric Company. I'm happy to be here today. I'm happy that all of you are here today to join us to celebrate the groundbreaking of the Johnson Corner Solar Project, which is not only going to add additional diversity to our generation resources, but other benefits as well. I want to recognize and thank and introduce U.S. Representative Roger Marshall. Thank you very much for joining us here today. We have some other introductions that we need to make. We have representatives from the Stanton County Commission. Would you stand if you are here? Gentlemen, thank you. Marty, I know you. I haven't yet introduced myself to the other two commissioners, but we thank you for being here and for your support of the project as well. Let's see. We have Senator John Dahl has joined us this morning. Senator Dahl, there you are. Thank you for being here with us. We have a number of representatives from Sunflower staff here. Would Sunflower staff please stand and be recognized? Thank you folks for being here. I especially want to recognize Corey Linville and his team. Corey has done the heavy lifting from Sunflower's perspective to get the project to this stage. And Corey, we appreciate your work, and Erica's and everyone else from your staff. Dr. Al Tamimi is not here today. Al has done a lot of work as far as the transmission interconnection. I want to introduce and recognize Kevin Christie from Lightsource. Kevin, could you stand? Oh, there you go, right there. Thank you. We appreciate you being here. Matt Kozlowski, I'll get that name wrong. Matt, thank you for being here. We'll work on that name later. Todd Bartling from NERCO, National Renewables Cooperative Organization. Todd, thank you for joining us today. The support and effort of these folks has been instrumental to the anticipated success of this project. At this time, I want to introduce Steve Epperson. Steve is the CEO of Pioneer Electric Cooperative, one of Sunflower's 6 member owners, and he is also the chairman of the Mid-Kansas Board of Directors. So, Steve.
As well, I want to welcome you all to this nice, windy, warm day. I do want to mention that there was a little bit of complaining at our photo op outside of town. The hair was being blown and it's hard to get a picture, and I absolutely have no sympathy for those who had that particular complaint. Here in western Kansas, you need to be a little bit more aerodynamic and live with that. Anyway, Stuart, I'm honored to serve as chairman of the Mid-Kansas Board of Directors and represent Southern Pioneer Electric Company, one of 6 members of Mid-Kansas. I also serve on the Sunflower Board and represent Pioneer Electric, one of the 6 members of Sunflower as well. I consider myself fortunate to work along individuals who represent the other 5 members of both Sunflower and Mid-Kansas. In an industry that becomes more complex with each passing day, or maybe even each passing minute, as rapid as change we see occurring in our industry, my fellow board members understand clearly why we exist and how we are different from investor-owned utilities. We exist to serve the thousands of electric cooperative members who own us and to provide them with reliable energy at a competitive cost so they can achieve their dreams and aspirations in central and western Kansas. At Pioneer and Southern Electric, we kind of distill that down into one statement: is we're here to provide the best possible service at the lowest possible cost and manage risk on behalf of our members. My fellow Mid-Kansas board members in attendance are Paul Seib, if you don't mind standing, Paul. There's Paul. Shane Laws from Victory Electric. Are there any other Mid-Kansas board members here that I failed to mention? If you are, please stand up at this point. All right, I think we have some other Sunflower. My fellow Sunflower board members in attendance are our chairman, Wes Campbell from Wheatland, Vice Chairman Kenny Waycamp, and also again Shane Laws. Jerry Gallagher from Prairie Land, Marty Floyd from Pioneer Electric. And we also have some other members of the directors from our member systems, and I have not mentioned them. If you wouldn't mind standing up at this time, if you're a co-op director of one of the member systems, if you wouldn't mind standing at this time so we can recognize you. Perry, Alfred, Mike, got somebody in the back. We thank you for being here as well. Appreciate all the support. Yes, over here as well. Thank you. In February 2018, along with our project partners, LightSource and National Renewable Cooperative Organization, we publicly announced the Johnson Corner Solar Project, the first solar generating facility in our system. Though this is our first solar project, Sunflower and Mid-Kansas have a history of being visionary and demonstrating the pioneering spirit, I like that word, pioneer, for which Midwesterners are known. We meet challenges head on, but in a practical and intentional manner. Much planning and strategizing came before February 2018, and much has occurred since then. We have also faced some delays, but true to our nature, we have continued forward, assessing at each juncture what is in the best interest of those we serve. And so today we gather to celebrate the next step, the groundbreaking of the Johnson Corner Solar Project. You might be thinking to yourselves, well, if you're such pioneers, why aren't we having the celebration at the project site 2 miles southwest of town? Well, remember that I also mentioned Midwesterners are practical, and with that and the moisture we've had, we didn't want to take a chance on vehicles being stuck and us, but we would have pulled you out, not a problem. Hopefully we can meet at the site to celebrate the commissioning of the project early next year, which of course will be contingent upon the most capricious thing around here, which is Kansas weather again. And now I'd like to turn it back over to Stuart with a few more introductions.
Thank you, Steve. As Steve said, this is one more step toward making the Johnson Corner Solar Project a reality. On behalf of Sunflower, Mid-Kansas, and our members, I would again like to thank LightSource BP and DERCO for partnering with us on this endeavor. Our working relationship is a testament to the benefits of collaborative thinking and working. This project will bring new resources to Sunflower and Mid-Kansas's generating portfolio that already includes natural gas, coal, wind, and a little bit of hydropower. While solar power is old school as a technology, photovoltaic technology has improved in both efficiency and output. The cost of photovoltaic technology has declined significantly, and economies of scale on large projects such as the Johnson Corner Solar Project further enhance the economics. Strategically placing the solar facility just 2 miles west of here will also defer or eliminate costly transmission upgrades that would otherwise be needed in the near future. An existing transmission line is currently operating near its full capacity, and the injection of energy from this solar project will reduce the energy load on this transmission line. The Sunflower Mid-Kansas system is a summer peaking system because in this area most electricity is consumed during the hottest days of the summer. While wind energy tends to be most abundant when we need it the least, during the night and in the winter, the solar project is going to generate most when our system has the highest energy demand. Having an on-peak, fixed-price wholesale energy resource will serve as a hedge against the fluctuating market price of energy. While solar energy has been around for centuries, many factors make this the right time to incorporate solar into our generation mix. This large-scale project is not only competitively priced, but as I mentioned, it will also mitigate other costs for our members, and that's always good news for the ratepayers at the end of the line. In addition, it will be a solution for electric co-op members, both residential and commercial, who want solar energy without the hassle of owning and maintaining their own solar panel array. As cooperatively owned and operated utilities, Sunflower and Mid-Kansas are member-focused and we look forward to advancing this project that will provide myriad benefits to the members and the thousands of Kansans that they serve. At this time, I want to again introduce Representative Roger Marshall. Representative Marshall, thank you again for being here.
Pleasure. Thanks so much. Well, thank you so much, Stuart, and thanks to Sunflower, to your 6-member co-ops that are represented here today, and all the other partners. Thanks to Johnson City for all the folks that have shown up to support this project. And a big thanks to Claire over here. Nothing good happens with Sunflower Electric unless Claire's in the middle of it. She's a great spokesman for you all, and she's the one that deserves the hand for all the work that you get to get here. Stuart and I get to get up here and share the glory, but we know Claire is behind all the great things happening around here. If I could just share a little bit about my childhood growing up, if we weren't in school, chances are my brother and my sister and I were out on our family farms. And we spent a lot of time with my grandparents. We actually probably spent more waking time with our grandparents than did my parents. Like many of us, my mom and dad were working 60, 80 hours a week. My grandparents taught me more about conservation and ecology than any classroom I ever learned, but they never even mentioned the word. They grew up in the Depression, and they talked a lot about all the different stories, and the Dust Bowl was one of their big stories. And later on, they told me about planting tree rows and cover crops, and I learned about using crop rotation to decrease wind and soil erosion. I remember my grandparents building field terraces to prevent soil erosion. And I bet there's a few people in this room that built a few terraces back in the day as well. But like many farmers, my grandparents turned out to be the original conservationists. And if I could add one more story of my boyhood, I remember as a Boy Scout, my first camp out, and as we were getting ready to pack up and leave, our scoutmaster saying, "Let's leave it better than we found it." And that's been a great model for me to pass on to my children and now my grandchildren. And I'm so proud that today, the air, the waters of Kansas are cleaner today than when I was growing up. And what I'm also proud of is that the carbon footprint of this great nation has a steady downward trend since 2003. And that's something the national media is never going to let you know. Today, the new Green Deal is grabbing all the headlines. And now more than ever, I'm asked about the environment and what are my policies. While others in Washington are still trying to describe and quantify and argue about century-old weather patterns and water temperatures, I'm focused on a more pragmatic, Kansas common sense solutions to our energy and environmental challenges. I believe there's a balance, that we can have both a cleaner environment and reasonable energy costs. I believe we can do this best through conservation and innovation. Let me say that again. We can best achieve these goals through sound conservation and innovation. Innovation can do more to impact our world's environment than any law or regulation that I can write in Washington or our friends in Topeka. And I believe this Johnson Corner Solar Project does just this by taking advantage of improved photovoltaic technology. Now, Stuart, I had to stop and look and see what photovoltaic technology meant. But what that means is we can take the sun's energy and turn it into electricity more efficiently than we've ever done before. So we take that technology, we use economies of scale, and we use this location as our state's greatest solar radiance. Sunflower Electric is making another great investment in our state. I'm so proud to see Kansas and Sunflower Electric and its 6-member co-ops leading the way to a cleaner, better tomorrow, and still have a mindful eye towards the cost of energy. If I could, I might add that no matter the challenge, diversification is always a good thing. By adding solar power to its already diverse portfolio of wind, coal, and natural gas electric generation, Sunflower is helping more than 200,000 customers located over 32 counties, as well as preserving our beautiful state for future generations of Kansans. The new Green Deal would end our Kansas agriculture, by the way. It would end our economy as we know it. It would destroy the oil and gas industry. It would triple our taxes and quadruple each of our monthly electric bills. This project, the Johnson Corner Solar Project, helps achieve many of the same goals as the Green New Deal without the aforementioned dire consequences. As a grandfather and as an avid outdoorsman, I believe we need to do what we can to leave this world better than we found it for the next generation. Investing in solar infrastructure, such as this project we are celebrating today, is one step toward that goal and helps to provide clean and affordable, renewable energy for Kansans for generations to come. Let me close again by just saying thanks to everyone who helped make this day possible, for the hard work of many to successful completion of the opening steps of this project, and for the opportunity to join you and celebrate this momentous occasion together. I look forward to continuing working together with Sunflower Electric on projects like these in the future. Thank you all. May God bless this project. May God bless this great nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marshall. Next, I'd like to introduce Kevin Christie, the Chief Operating Officer of LightSource BP. LightSource BP, a 6-person startup in 2010, now has staff in 6 offices across 3 continents, helping develop utility-scale solar projects. The company has commissioned 1.3 gigawatts of large-scale solar projects to date and manages approximately 2 gigawatts of capacity under long-term operations and maintenance contracts. Kevin, Sunflower and Kansas are honored to partner with LightSource BP on the Johnson Corner Solar Project.
Well, thank you, Steve, for those kind words. And greetings to you, to Representative Marshall, to Stuart Lowry of the Mid-Kansas and Sunflower Boards, to, and I hope I get this right, Senator Dahl, to Representative Long, to Todd Bartley of the NRCO team, to all of the Mid-Kansas and Sunflower employees, especially Corey Linville, who helped to make this project a reality, and to the Arnold family, on whose land this project will be harvesting the sun for the next several decades. NRCO, Sunflower, and Mid-Kansas worked on this project with the Arnolds for quite some time before our involvement in what I hope for them is a blueprint for successful collaborations in the future. LightSource BP is a joint venture between LightSource Renewable Energy, which was founded and based in London, and BP itself. BP asked me to share with you all that they're extremely supportive of this investment in Kansas and that it occurs alongside their previous investments in Kansas, including the Flat Ridge 1 and 2 wind projects, which are southwest of Wichita, and the Butamax facility in Scandia. Collectively, BP has invested over $775 million into the Kansas economy, and the wind projects alone inject $6 million per year in wages, royalties, and lease payments to local communities. It's my sincere hope that what has begun here, that the first high-voltage interconnected solar project in Kansas, continues across the state as utilities like Sunflower and Mid-Kansas, landowners like the Arnolds, and community leaders recognize the economic and environmental benefits of harvesting the sun right here in Kansas. Thank you all, and have a lovely day.
Next, I'd like to introduce Todd Bartling, Vice President of Renewable Development at the National Renewables Cooperative Organization. NERCO was formed in 2008 to assist in the cost-effective joint development of renewable resources nationwide for its members. We are proud to say Sunflower helped form NERCO and has been a member since its inception. Todd, thank you and your team for helping us develop a second renewable project that will benefit electric cooperative members.
Thank you. I'm near the cleanup spot, right? So it's hard to find lots of good new words to say. So I would simply just like to congratulate staff and the board. The path to get here was not a straight line, but there was constant commitment and discussion about what is the right thing to do. And I find this to be a tremendously exciting project. Because as Stuart mentioned, this is truly driven by the economics and the benefits that it can bring to the member system. And we're hopeful, as Kevin said as well, that not only Sunflower, but other cooperatives that work with us will continue to kind of do this self-development and bring what can be tremendous value to the member system. So congratulations, and we look forward to seeing these panels out there. We can actually get some true electricity out. So thank you.
One thing by note that just amazes me about this project, those panels will be covering, I believe, Corey's right, 210 acres. So it will be very conspicuous southwest of Johnson, and something, of course, we're very, very proud of. It's been said that the number one reason people give up so fast is because they tend to look at how far they still have to go instead of how far they've gotten. But we are not giving up, but we do think it's important to celebrate accomplishments along the way. Thank you again for helping us do that today. And now, please join us for lunch, and please be safe on your way home. Thank you for attending. I'm sorry, we have one announcement.
I do. Since we have a few moments, would you entertain questions from the audience? Or is there someone that would like to speak to some of the details of the construction? If you'd be willing to do that. And then we will allow time if people want to take pictures with the solar panels.
Okay.
Before lunch. I think we'll have time for that before lunch.
All right. We'll open it up for questions then. Does anyone?
Why don't we let Kevin get some of the operational?
You want to give some operational updates? You bet.
Sure. So the fundamental generating element of these projects are these solar modules, and as it was Representative Marshall. So they basically are able to convert light into electricity, and they'll be mounted on what are called single-axis trackers. So these are rows that are oriented to the north and south. So in the morning, these modules will be angled over to the east to start catching the morning sun, and then they'll stay on sun and rotate over to the west throughout the day. That DC energy is then inverted into AC power by what are called these string inverters. So each one of these modules is in the high 300 watt rating, and then we'll combine a number of them together in what's called a string, and then they go into a string inverter and they're collected together. They're converted to AC energy at low voltage, and then it's stepped up to medium voltage, and then ultimately into high voltage for connection at the substation. And we'll be delivering peaking power to the utility for what we hope is ultimately a 35-year project life. The first 25 of which will be under this existing contract. Any other details? What's the timeline? Timeline. So yes. So we expect a groundbreaking as early as August. We're reaching financial close next month. The selected contractor for the project, we've got a couple of representatives here from Sterling and Wilson, who will be doing the physical work at the site, and we hope to commission a few months early before our May 1st target deadline.
20 megawatts.
Beg your pardon?
May 1st.
Yes. So the rating of this project is 20 megawatts net AC. So the most power that the system will deliver is 20 megawatts to the Johnson Corner substation. It's actually a 27 megawatt and change DC system, but when you factor in all of the various losses through the electronics and the power conversion, it's a net of 20 megawatts to the substation. And it'll deliver about 53,000 what are called megawatt hours per year, which would be about 53 million kilowatt hours of solar energy into the Pioneer Electric grid.
Are we capturing reflectors?
So these are not, we will have some, okay, so these are what are called monofacial panels. So you can see these solar cells on the front collect the direct energy sunlight that hits them. We'll also be installing some number of what are called bifacial modules that can collect not only the direct sunlight, but also some reflected sunlight from the ground. And so that we'll be able to increase the energy delivery of the overall system.
Any questions for Kevin? One of the other aspects of the project that I can illuminate on a little bit is that in addition to energy production, I mentioned that this project will help us offset what would otherwise be some transmission upgrades that we would have to make in the area. The reason for that is we've seen, as Kevin mentioned, really a proliferation of wind energy in western Kansas, and with that and the resulting transmission studies, we've had to make transmission upgrades to accommodate the wind or to guard against what would be potential reliability problems. And so as we were planning this project, one of the aspects of the project that our transmission engineering team undertook was to study whether or not an injection of on-peak energy, such as we would have with a solar resource, would help us offset what would otherwise be a transmission upgrade. And it's possible because many of the measurements that are made on the transmission system to determine whether or not a reliability problem exists, those measurements are made on peak. And if we have an injection of energy on peak, then the transmission system in the area isn't loaded as much as it otherwise would be. And the fact that it isn't loaded quite so much means that the models may not spit out the need for enhanced transmission upgrades at the site. So that's not a benefit that was necessarily measured by NERCO on other projects or by LightSource BP. A lot of that work was done, as I mentioned earlier, by Al Tamimi and the Sunflower Transmission Engineering Department. But we think it's a model that could be beneficial going into the future. We think it's a real value to our ratepayers because not building that transmission upgrade helps us avoid a cost that we would otherwise have. And transmission costs have really been, when you think about the pieces of the wholesale rate that we charge our members, it's the transmission piece of the rate that's really been growing most rapidly in recent years. So anything we can do to manage that cost is a good thing for the ratepayer. Any other questions for Kevin or Todd? We glossed over a few things. Yes, sir.
How susceptible is those panels to like a hailstorm, small hailstorm?
Yeah, great question. How susceptible are the panels to a hailstorm? So that's one of the questions that we asked Kevin when we first met with him.
Yeah, great. So one of the tests that are applied to these modules is an actual hail test. So they have a gun that shoots balls of frozen water at these modules as part of their testing criteria. That said, depending upon how large that ball of ice is, there's almost nothing that we could build out there that would protect from any and all hail events. So that's why we have insurance. So hopefully we've hit the right balancing point between engineering for the likelihood and the ultimate event.
So how big could it be? Was it golf ball, softball?
So help me out, Matt, they're more pea-sized. I think
It's
that's
up
fair
to
say.
about 1.3 inch diameter is the test. And I believe 85 kilometers per hour.
Bigger than a marble, smaller than a golf ball.
It's basically up to $half size.
So, Steve asked where these modules will be manufactured. They're actually manufactured in Southeast Asia, not in China. We actually, since about the mid 2014, 2015 or so, the cumulative tariffs that have been applied upon Chinese modules migrated production to other parts of Southeast Asia, like Thailand and Malaysia.
Might talk about a lot of the other solar projects that you guys have developed in Europe too.
Sure. So, as was mentioned earlier, LightSource did get started in the UK. The first non-UK project that LightSource built is a 60 megawatt plant in India. This will be our first, it's our first U.S. plant that is developed. I think we'll have actually 3 other similarly sized plants that will COD by the end of the year. We've got smaller plants actually, a couple that we have in New Mexico that will be commissioned in COD by the end of the year. Commercial operations date is what COD means. And then we'll have our first project in Pennsylvania, which the power is sold to Penn State in College Station. That project will also go online by the end of the year. And they're all part of a financing portfolio that includes this Johnson Corner project and also includes 2 more projects for Penn State in Pennsylvania and a project in California for Sacramento Municipal Utility District that will be live by about this time next year. And then our next project is actually that has been announced is in Alabama with Alabama Municipal Electric Authority That's a 100 megawatt AC project that'll be online in 2021. And I think it says something about the way that we've approached the market here in the U.S. Of those 500 megawatts of projects, none of them are actually with an investor-owned utility. They're all with co-ops and G&Ts like Sunflower, like Mid-Kansas, and with Alabama Municipal Electric, with Sacramento Municipal Utility District, and with Penn State. So, when I started in my career, it was only the investor-owned utilities that were doing this. Now we're seeing it, really go down into all sectors and all buyers in the market.
A lot of that is the financial strength and the borrowing power. You might talk a little bit about the finance.
Sure. So, I talked about a financing portfolio. One of the reasons that we do that is in order to get an efficient cost of capital, and in order to be able to take advantage of the tax credits that are supplied via the federal investment tax credit for this, is we have to find a tax equity provider who basically wants to buy the tax credits from these projects. For this portfolio, that buyer is Guardian Life Insurance Company. They're providing the tax equity check for this. And then we also need to layer on a fair amount of construction and long-term debt. That's coming from an entity called NetWest, which is short for National Westminster, which is actually a UK bank, and this is their first US renewables project. We have a long-standing relationship with them in the UK. And then
leveraging the size of your project portfolio.
Yeah, that's right.
Your borrowings results in a savings.
Correct, yes, exactly.
For you and for us.
So if we were going to do this project on a standalone basis, there's really no way that we would have been able to get under 3 cents a kilowatt hour as we have for the wholesale cost of energy coming off of this project. Aggregating these together, getting to the banks, the pension funds, the insurance companies that have the low cost of capital but want to write a big check, we needed to assemble a portfolio of similarly sized projects around this project. So, when we first signed up for this deal, that was the bet that we were making, that we could find more projects that would fit into that portfolio so that we could deliver on that low cost of energy. And fortunately today, we have. We were kind of knocking on wood for a little while, but the projects came in, so we're really happy to be able to do that.
I haven't checked the generation interconnection queue. Maybe you have, Corey, but there's a growing amount of solar in the SPP interconnection queue, which is the process that people follow to interconnect new generation. Will this be the largest project in Kansas?
When it comes online, I think there's some larger projects that are in the queue, but when ours comes online, it'll be the largest at that time.
Okay, so yeah, if you couldn't hear Corey, when the Johnson Corner project comes online, it will be the largest solar project in Kansas, but there are other projects that will be larger, perhaps later on after this one. Claire, anything else?
Yes, there are, do I need to use smart? So Light Source brought these 2 panels, and there are pins here, special pins, that you can sign your name on the panel. They're commemorative. So before you leave today, please sign both panels, because one will remain with Light Source and the other with Sunflower. So if you could do that.
We're actually going to send one to your Garden City office and another one to your Hayes office.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So please do that, and then we definitely want some pictures with our landowners and with our speakers today. If we could do that before we adjourn. And I'm sure lunch, I know it smells great, so I'm sure lunch is ready very soon. Thank you.